Hello. Have you ever encountered or even heard of something in Unreal that was such a bullshit or so incomprehensible that you had to completely change how you do something or create something new that would allow you to do it? Of course you have. Tell me in the comments whether it's Unreal or not. The world is covered in a thick layer of bullshit. Just tell me about it. Now, since a woman has yet to collar me and put me on my knees for being a bitch, nor do I have a twink under my desk to aggressively love, I am back to bother you with my presence. I do not have any offline events this time, so before we start, I'll just go through some things that I may not have mentioned the last time. I am no longer using a central game instance. It has been instead split into 3 different game instance subsystems: the plant registry, breeding subsystem, and the item registry. Plant registry is what holds like all of the growth times, requirements, the meshes, basically whatever's relating to the plant growth, visibility, or whatever else is specific per plant. The item registry, which is the data that dictates the sell costs, inventory size, what drops and such. It does hold some meshes, but that's probably going to be removed since I can just reference it by something else. And then we have the breeding system, which is the thing that essentially bridges the two. It orders the creation, and the plant registry picks up the creation command. It creates all the plant data, saves it, then returns a copy back to the plant or the breeding system. From then the item registry then takes it copies the name so the names stay consistent, and then it copies a reference in case it ever needs to access something within the plant registry. It discards whatever else it does not need, and then it creates the seeds, petals, the plant as a whole, specifically any item that the player can hold. Now to things that are actually new, the day and night cycle. As you can see, it now gets dark and light. Don't really know what to really say about it. It's pretty much the most simplistic day-night cycle there is, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But in addition to that, I also made a flashlight, which is the exact same thing. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you're probably not paying attention to either of those. You're probably looking at that thing right there and thinking, what is that actual piece of shit? I'll get to that in a moment. There's also now subtitles, or subdivisions if you want to call them, in the cell. So maybe you can tell, maybe not, but it's running a lot better than what it was. Except if I look behind me, that's where all the actors are. I have not did the thing where I convert them back to instances, so there's way too many. Just ignore those. Now, instead of running several thousand checks at once, now I'm no longer running several thousand checks at once. Instead, I'm checking all the subtiles first. So it went from a guaranteed 500 times however many plants there are per tile to 25 per tile, plus however many subtiles are selected. I also stopped checking for a specific plant and went to any plant, which really helped. So since the cells are in 25 pieces, the theoretical max should be, there's like 20 plants per subtile, only 10 subtiles are selected. Not per tile, but total. So the theoretical max should be about 300 checks, but since it's all randomly placed, all it is theoretical. But either way, it's a lot less checks now. Before getting to the main meat, I'm going to interrupt here to promote my KoFi. It's by far my most active social media. You can follow for free, and donating is completely optional. Here I share updates and just current things happening. If I gain a decent following, this will also be the place where I post polls and stuff. Link in the description is below if you want to check it out. Now moving on, all the plant meshes you see here are all adaptive meshes, the custom mesh I created. I'm sure a mesh type like this already exists, but I just created it myself anyway. It's essentially just static mesh plus runtime generation. Now you could ask why I didn't just use multiple static meshes or create static meshes at runtime, or B, why not use UAddaptiveMesh? The reason I'm not using static meshes as my main thing is because if I need each plant to be like 20 or 30 static meshes, it's just way too much to keep track of, and it's burdensome to access something specific. And as for why I'm not creating meshes at runtime, It's just, I just really couldn't do what I wanted with combining, since a lot of the things I want to access or try to do are editor only, so I couldn't really do that. But my meshes are essentially doing the same thing, just packaged a little bit differently that would allow me to use them in a way I want. I'm pretty sure I can do this exact same thing I'm doing with the meshes I created to static meshes. It would just be a lot more roundabout of a way. The reason I'm not using dynamic meshes are because they are pure dog shit for what I want. The memory usage is trash. I can't make use of the extra rasterizer nanite to render them on the GPU if needed. I can't instance them. I don't want all the physical bullshit of deformation and remesh. They are not an asset I can save. They are a pain in the ass to transfer in cache. I don't want all the spline bullshit. I worked with it for only 3 days, and that was enough to purple hollow the whore out of my project and never look back at it again, unless I need it, unless I specifically need that exact thing. I hate the dynamic meshes. Dog shit, I don't know how something like that came into existence. So how do adaptive meshes work, and why is it spelled like that? Spelled like that because I'm the big smart. You'll add meshes at runtime. I'm joking. I'm just a fucking dumbass. I spelled adaptive wrong 20 different times and decided to just deal with it. As for how it works, it starts off as a static mesh, then I cook it from one, or I have the choice to do multiple if I ever need to. The cooking obtains all its data and repackages it into something a little bit more usable for what I'm trying to do. And it's also trying to keep the format to make the static mesh to adaptive mesh and vice versa conversions easier. But that's only the editor. At runtime, each adaptive mesh needs to be created from other adaptive meshes. So I'm essentially turning a static mesh into a building block that I can combine at runtime, and that building block just so happens to be the adaptive mesh. If we take the final plant mesh, for example, it takes a plant base, a branch, and some number of flowers. This is all proof of concept. There's going to be many more, and this probably won't scale too goodly. These are all adaptive meshes I pre-made ahead of time in the editor, and it combines them into a new adaptive mesh. Now this essentially allows me to access all the pieces, but as if they were one object. And what I mean by that is if I go into the editor, I have all the materials and everything in a neat place and order. So I'm not doing something like accessing the third mesh in an array to access the second material to do whatever I need. It's all in one place. I don't have to navigate a lot of arrays. It's just there. But this situation is a little bit different from the instances. The instances are still one static mesh, but it's created from an adaptive mesh. But I still keep the ability to refresh its rendering if I ever need to change the mesh for some reason. I was trying to create my own, but I was having problems with my uniform buffer and the proxies, so I had to settle for this if I wanted it to be done in a timely manner. And that is all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my rambling, consider liking and subscribing to get notified when I post a new video. Also, if you're interested, check out my Ko-fi. It's linked below in the description. Following is free, and following is free and donating is completely optional. It will also keep you in the loop of my development. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.